So I've spent a ton of time looking through the ESRPG Discord trying to figure out how to add a new animal enemy to ESRPG 5.0, as well as I'm using Unreal Engine 5.5. So I think this is going to be the most up-to-date way on how to do this, and I've encountered a few issues which hopefully this video will help us all solve, and I'll make subsequent videos on how to update some of the things that I currently have an issue with. I hope to make a series out of this. So if we can all work together to kind of solve some of these issues, I think it would be great. But I have created a pretty decent implementation of applying an actual animal enemy to the game. I've added this wolf here, and we can just go ahead and play this, and I can show some of the issues and some of the things on how this works. This might actually aggro the pig. I kind of hope it does, because there's one thing I want to talk about with that. All right, it's not going to aggro the pig. Let's go ahead and pick up this sword here. And these aggro kind of like a line of sight. So right now there's one issue that I have, which is the way that they chase. You can see that it kind of runs after us, but then it starts walking, and that's a bit of a problem. I haven't been able to figure out exactly how to solve that problem. They're kind of too easy to dodge. So if anybody knows how to kind of fix the way that they change from their walk to their run animation, I would absolutely love that. But we do have the ability for them to attack, and I have multiple different attack animations on our wolf. I can also make sure that they get stunned when we attack, and if we kill them, they will also die and drop loot and do their ragdoll, which is absolutely perfect. We can change the loot table. I have not bothered to do that yet, but all in all, this is a really good implementation with a couple of issues. The other issue that I have seen is that the hitbox, for some strange reason, on creatures that are smaller, depending on where they're standing, might not actually get hit. In the original implementation of how to implement an animal AI, there was a hitbox that we can change, but I have not been able to figure out where that hitbox is on these new characters. It doesn't have any issue with players, but with smaller creatures, there does seem to be a little bit of an issue with the way that the hits register, which I would like to get solved. But for the most part, there's really small issues with this. Now, unfortunately, most of these official tutorials are incredibly outdated, but we're going to be taking some of this stuff from the how to add a new animal enemy. And then if you actually go to the Easy Survival RPG 3 here, there is a tutorial from Radic on how to implement a new enemy. Now, this tutorial goes over essentially how to replace the undead enemy with an Unreal Engine mannequin that works really, really well. If you're looking for just a bipedal enemy, this tutorial is going to be fantastic. But I'm looking for a quadruped or an animal, and this kind of helped me solve a few things, but this is going to fill in the gaps for anybody actually trying to implement an animal. Otherwise, Radic's tutorial here on how to implement a new enemy is fantastic. And for the most part, we're going to be following at least like the first few minutes of this, and then the rest of it really just doesn't matter for what we're doing. Now, I'm going to be implementing a new boar enemy. I already made a wolf and a bear, but we're going to be implementing a new boar. So if you go into Easy Survival RPG, then into blueprints, then to characters, then to base, we're going to be duplicating the BP underscore character underscore undead blueprint. We're going to rename this to boar for me because I'm going to be making a boar. You can rename it to whatever you want. That's going to be kind of the moral of the story throughout this. And because I'm kind of changing up my folder structure here, I'm going to actually be dropping this into a new folder that I'm going to make inside of here called boar, because I like just keeping everything kind of close to where I need it. So I'm going to just drop this BP into this folder here, and that way I can easily access all the 3 files that we're going to end up making. Now go ahead and open up this new copy that you made. We're going to keep it up here because we're going to be accessing it a lot. Now the first thing we're going to do is under this character mesh, we're going to highlight the weapon mesh all the way down to the head mesh. Then under search, we're going to type in Visi for visibility, and we're going to uncheck the visible. That way all of this kind of just gets deleted. Then if we go up to the character mesh, we can exit out of our search here, and we're going to replace the skeletal mesh with whatever we want to make. In my case, I want to make a boar. So I'm going to be using my skeletal mesh boar for this. It's going to look like hammered ass when it pops up. That's perfectly fine. If you go up to your anim class, just go ahead and remove this, change it to none, then compile it and save it. And you might see that all of your textures are kind of wonky. You just go ahead and change this to whatever texture, just swap it back and forth to whatever you want. I'm going to go ahead and kind of make this funky little blue boar that we have here. I'm going to recompile this and I'm going to save it. Now, while we're in here, we're just going to go to the top of here and click on this, which is my BP underscore character underscore boar. And under search, I'm going to type in character. And I want to change this character from undead to boar, or whatever you want. And then I'm just going to remove this character icon for now. We're just going to clear that out. I'm going to compile it and save it. Now, if we go to test world, I just want to go ahead and just drop this into the scene. So that way we can experiment with it as we need to. I can probably get rid of the wolf, but we'll leave it there for now. But if we click play on this, we should see that our boar is now in the scene. None of the animations are tied to it right now, which is perfectly fine. It's just kind of walking around all. Now go to your construction script, which is right next to your viewport. You're going to break this link. We can compile and save. Now we can go back to our content browser. Just click on content and type in ABP. We're going to look for ABP underscore undead, and we're going to just duplicate this. And I'm going to call this ABP underscore boar. We're going to hit enter. Now, if you feel like making sure that you assign all your stuff to the same area like I am, you can do that right now if you want. And then once this is in the area that you want it to be, we're going to right click it. We're going to assign skeleton, and we're going to assign it to our boar skeleton, or whatever skeleton that you are trying to assign it to. And we can click accept there. And then we're going to open this up. Now this is pretty much where we stop using every other tutorial. And we're going to go down to our anim graph. And we're going to completely delete all of these. This is going to leave our output pose here. Then we can go to content browser. And since we're still in ABP, we're going to click on the adult pig here, which I have on another screen. We'll drag that over, and we're going to collect all of this. So we're going to highlight all of that. We're going to go back to our boar. We're going to paste that inside of here. And then we're just going to bring our output pose. We're going to drag the apply additive over, whoops, we're going to drag the additive over to here. Now I would like to be using blend space 2D for this, which means we would need our directional stuff in here as well. But I haven't figured out a good way to implement the blend space 2D for some reason. I just can't seem to get it to work. Probably because I'm stupid. I don't know. We can go ahead and just quickly compile that. It's going to look absolutely ridiculous. But then we can double click into state machine, double click into idle run. And then inside of here, we're going to delete the BS underscore pig, whatever is in here. And we need to make our own blend space. So inside of whatever folder you're using, we're just going to right click. We're going to type in blend space, or at least blend. And we're going to use blend space 1D for now. If you know how to do a 2D blend space, feel free to do that. And we're just going to assign our boar skeleton to it. So far, this is the best way that I've gotten it to work. For some reason, I can't get the blend space 2Ds to work. We're going to rename this BS underscore boar. And then we're going to open that up. And then inside of here, we're going to rename the horizontal axis to speed. Now, there's a couple important things here. We need to make sure that our maximum axis value is also equivalent to whatever we want our actual speed to be for our boar. Now, if you click on the BP underscore character underscore boar inside of the BP boar, or whatever actual BP you're working with, we can type in speed. And now we can see that our walk speed is 200, our run speed is 400. I think I'm probably going to keep that, which means I can go back to our BS underscore boar. I'm going to make sure our maximum value is 400. Our grid divisions are going to be 5. Our use grid is going to be checked. And then our weight speed is going to be 8.0. We're also going to do smoothing time as 0.2. Actually, we can do 0.1. And we're going to make sure we change this to averaged. And then inside of here, we're going to do idle. So we're going to use our idle. We're going to drag that all the way to the beginning here. And then we're going to do run. We're going to do run forward, and I'm going to drag it all the way to the very end. And then we're going to do walk. We're going to do walk forward, and we're going to bring that to right around where 200 is, which should be right around here. If you don't get it right at 200, you can just type it in here, 200. And as long as we have our walk speed at 200, our run forward speed at 400, and our idle at 0, we can go ahead and save this. And we're going to go back to BP underscore character underscore bore. Make sure you exit out of any filters. We can go back to mesh, and then under anim class, we're going to type in our new anim class, which is going to be APP bore. Before we compile that, let's go back to APP bore. You can take your blend space, which I have in this folder right here, drag it into this spot. Then you're going to drag speed to speed, and you're going to exit this out to your output results. Now you can compile it, and your animations should be correct. So we can save this. We've already applied our APB bore here, so we can compile and save here as well. And now we can at least check to make sure our walking animations work correctly. And just like that, our boar is actually walking and running around. It ran right to that wolf, but you can just make sure that your animations are working from here. So now what we're going to do is break a couple of things, which is always a fun time. Under your variables here, if you don't have your variables, just make sure to drop it down. We have a bunch of variables we need to get rid of, and a few we need to change. So you're going to select your character, and you're just going to drop this down, and you're going to search for BP character, whatever you decided to name it. I'm working with a boar, so I need it to be BP character boar. I'm going to change my variable type. And this might take a second for it to change all your variable types. Once that's done, just exit out of here. And if you're still in your animation graph, you're going to want to go back to your event graph. We're going to delete this cast to character. And then we're going to type in cast to BP, whatever it was that we just created, which is the BP boar. BP character boar. We're going to make sure we drag the event to this spot, the get pawn to object, and BP to character. And inside of this, just make sure that it's also still selected to boar, which this is. Which means we also need to select this and down into here. Compile, save. And now it should work fine. Make sure you don't leave your connections unconnected. All right, once we've tested that, we want to go back here and we're going to get rid of everything we don't actually need. Which I'm not going to be using any charging skills or any aiming skills since we're just using a boar. Obviously, if you want to do some funky stuff, you can figure this out on your own. I'm not going to use any of these, so I'm going to delete aim offset variable. The is charging variable. Is charged. Should charging. Should aiming. We're going to leave the move direction in case you want to do a 2D blend space. We're going to leave the last velocity rotation. We're going to remove should blocking. I would like to create a swimming animation at some point and an air and is grounded is alive. We're going to get rid of stance. We're going to keep is alive, is moving, speed, velocity, all of that. So now we can compile this. We can save it. Then we're going to add one more, which is going to be called in air. We're going to hit enter on that. We're going to change it to a Boolean. We're going to compile. We're going to save. And then essentially everything else that we need to do from here is going to be within the BP underscore boar. Or BP underscore character boar. So inside of here, we're going to drop down the interaction. So it's going to be under states. Then we're going to go to combat. We're going to keep get base damage, get impact sound. We're going to keep damage taken. We're going to keep hit blocks. We're going to keep try attack. We're going to keep it trace damage. If you're not going to be shooting anything, we're going to get rid of shoot. Basically anything with shooting in it, we're going to get rid of. So we can get rid of try charge. We're not going to be using that. We're not going to be using release charge. We can get rid of that, and we can get rid of charge release. You can keep those if you plan on using anything like that. Now, if we compile this, we should get some errors. Now, if you click into any of these errors, we're going to see these BPIs. Now, these BPIs are going to be under, I believe it's going to be under interfaces, BPI character, interactions, combat. So we can get rid of anything that's going to be causing us an issue with our compilation. So we need to get rid of the try shoot BPI. Click that again. Now we have try shoot BPI, which is fine. We can get rid of try charge, try release, try shoot. We're going to get rid of check charge release and set charge states. Then we're going to click into here and we're going to add a new variable, which is going to be the try attack BPI. And then inside of here, we're just going to spread this out. And then under here, we have interactions, combat, and we have try attack. We're going to drag that into here. Connect these just like that. Let's compile, see what other errors we have. All right, we have no more errors, which is exactly what we want. Now what we can do is we can click play. We're just going to make sure that the boar still aggroes us. There we go. So it's going to follow us. It's not going to attack us or anything right now because we still have to add all of those interactions, but we're going to do that right now. Everything looks good so far. Now what we want to do is we want to double click into try attack. And we're going to go to our attack animations. Now there's probably going to be a few in here already. Now, depending on how many attack animations you want, you can add as many as you want for variation. Or I'm just going to delete what is in here right now. Then we're going to add a new element, drop this down. We're going to do animations to play. And we're going to look for boar combat. So we have our boar unarmed attack 1. This is going to be our first one that we're going to mess with. And once you assign whatever you want your first attack to be, you can just double click into that. And this is kind of what our first attack is going to look like. Now you're going to go down to root animation. You're going to enable root animation. Then under notifies, we need 3 different notifies here. So we're going to go to notifies. We're going to add a couple of them until we get to 3. Let's pause this real quick. Now we're going to right click, add a notify state, and this is going to be, I believe it's, yes, if you just type in interaction, you're going to add the BP underscore notify state underscore interaction state. You're going to drag this all the way to the beginning. You're going to drag this all the way out to the end. And it should already be set to attacking, but if you click under here, just make sure to drop down the default here, and you want your interaction state to be attacking. Then under 2, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to type in interaction states, drag it to the beginning, drag it all the way out to the end. This time we're going to select upper body. And now we kind of just want to look at our animation and look for where the hit is. Which I'm going to say it's like right about here for me. I'm going to right click, add notify, and we're going to type in trace damage. You want that kind of right where the hit animation is. I could bring it out a little bit farther, something like that. Now, if you have multiple attack animations, you're going to want to do this for each one. So we're going to save. I'm going to type in combat here for our boar. I have a couple of different attack animations. We have a stun, unarmed attack. We have an unarmed attack 1. And we just got to do exactly the same thing again. So we got to make sure that we enable root animation. I'm going to add a couple of notified tracks. Right click, add notify states. interaction state, drag it to the beginning, drag it all the way to the end. Then on track 2, another interaction state, drag it to the beginning, drag it to the end, make sure this one is the upper body. We're going to look once again for where we want that hit to be, right when that snoot is up there like that. Add notify, trace damage. I'm just going to do it once more. Now, once you have those done, you can add as many different attacks as you want. I apparently only had 2 this time. So just going to make sure we add both of those in here. And then we can compile and save. And just make sure that these are working. We can load into the game. I'm going to run up to this boar. It should aggro us, and there it is, attacking. It's already registering these hits on us, which is good. So we got 2 different attack animations, so it's going to change them up depending on whatever it wants to do, which is nice. And we're dead. Perfect. Now, I'm leaving the ultimate attack animation in here. If you want to add one of these, you obviously can. For right now, I'm just going to clear this out of here. So I'm going to clear that, compile, save. We don't have an ultimate attack animation. But I might add one in the future for a different tier boar, perhaps. Now we're going to double click into damage taken, and you can do your hit reaction. Now, if you have multiple hit reactions, like in here, there's 3. So there's like hit front, hit left, hit right. You can add all of those. I only have 1 hit reaction for mine, so I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to add 1. We're going to click into this, click into animation to play, and we're just going to do boar hit. And we're going to double click into here. We're going to make sure we enable root animation. We're going to add 1 more notify track. For the top one, we're going to add a notify state, which is just going to be our interaction state. Drag it to the beginning, drag it all the way to the end. We're going to make sure we use upper body. Now for this part, I don't know how to add it, but what we can do is go to content browser. We're going to type in BS_undead. We click back in here. I just want to basically just pick any of these. Double click to open that. Now, if we type hit into here, we can kind of just look at any of these hits. So that's a blocking one. There we go. We have the actual hit one, and this has a sound on it. I just want to grab this sound so we can actually just copy this. We can pause it. I don't want the bones hit, but I do want the actual hit on the character. And we're just going to paste that here. You can change this actual sound by going up here and changing that. But we want our board to get hit. That's a really strange hit animation, I'll tell you what. I guess maybe we'll do it like here. See what that looks like. You can kind of change that however you want. I don't know if I'm happy with that, but just for the sake of these, just for the sake of this video, we're gonna go with it. So we can save that. Now, if we test it, we should be able to run up to our boar and slap it, and it's going to give us that little hit animation. Now, the one thing that I don't like about this is you can actually stun lock enemies with this particular animation response, which I want to know a way to change that. So if anybody has any good ideas for not stun locking your enemies, that'd be pretty nice. That's one of the flaws that I see with it. But yeah, you can see that that animation works now. Our hits animations still work. Everything is good. Now, if you want, you can also add a hit block animation exactly the same way. So we still have that inside of here. If you just click on here, you can change it to a block animation. I do have a dodge one. So if I wanted to, I could type in boar dodge. If I could type right. And my blocking animation is going to be now just a dodge animation. You only need 2 notification tracks for this one. The top one is going to be your interaction. This is going to be an upper body, just like the other one. And then what we need for the bottom one is going to be an interaction state as well. But this is actually going to be dragged out, and we're going to name this one blocking. And we want this to be exactly where I guess the dodge or block kind of looks. I'll put it right there. And you can add a sound to the dodge if you want as well, but we're not going to do that. If you want to add a sound to it, you just add a third notify track with a sound profile on there, and you can do that pretty easily. So we're just going to save this, go back to character boar, compile, save. Now, any other things that you want in here as well, you can do. So we have our death animation or death. You can do a taunt in here if you want. You can do play sounds. I believe there should be an option for swimming in here as well. Because if you want your enemy to be able to swim, you can change that. So basically just kind of look through these for any other animations that you want to change. But for the most part, that's all it really takes to update your own actual animal enemy inside of the game. Hopefully this helps out, because I know a lot of people have been trying to figure this out on the server as well. But also for any of these little problems that I've been encountering, if anybody has any good fixes for these, I can do a quick video to update this into a little series to improve our animal AI a little bit. Would love to make this a lot better and provide some more documentation for it. Oh, also I still have an actual weapon under there. We need to fix that. Now to fix the weapon under your animal, if you just drop down state, we're going to delete the update weapon. We can also delete the set charging mode, set charge states, and we'll keep the update character rotation. Now if we compile, we're going to get some errors. We just need to click on the error. We're going to delete the update weapon. We're going to reconnect these. Then we're going to click on set charging mode. We're not going to be doing any of this, so I believe we can just delete both of these. We don't need the set charged state. We don't need the update weapon on the final ones. We're going to delete this. And then I believe we can just connect that to there. And if we compile and save, everything should be working completely fine now. And if we go back and look at our boar, there should be no weapon under the boar anymore. If you want to put a weapon inside of like an animal's mouth, you could probably do that using those functions. But yeah, everything works pretty well now.